within Dropbox, I've provided resources to pursue the map check process, and so I'll show you where those are. So there's actually two approaches that I've been working on. One of those is to use QGIS, and I've provided a couple of tutorials for that, and I'll improve upon that between now and next week. And I've been working with Richard. He's walked through a couple of those tutorials and has got it close to figured out, I do believe. The second approach occurred to me just yesterday, and that is to use Google Earth. Google Earth, I think, might work for us as well, so I'll demonstrate that approach. So within the Honey Lake Power Attestation Project, within the Dropbox resource, I've created a folder called Project Maps. I'm in that folder here. So there's a number of folders that I've set up there. One is just the base layers. The base layers folder contains those files in a zip file format that you'll want to set up for QGIS, and you'll see that in the QGIS tutorial number 1, I believe it is. So those are there. So there's the high hazard zones, that's tier 1 and tier 2. There's the counties, the 5 counties or 6 counties that are pretty much the working circle for Honey Lake Power. And then there's the public land survey layer. So those are what you need, as well as a couple of other layers that are accessed via the internet. So they're a dynamic live layer within QGIS. So those are already discussed in a tutorial. Then there are the how-to tutorials. There's the QGIS tutorials, which I've already done. They probably need some refinement, and I hope to do that between now and then. So they're in sequence. Number 1 is how to set up the Honey Lake Power template, as I call it. That template serves the purpose of where to start. It's got all the layers you need, so that all that is necessary is to upload and geo-reference the map that's provided by the supplier. So that's discussed there. And then the second tutorial is how to actually do that, overlay the map image. And the third is a continuation of that process, as well as the overlaying and checking the tier 1 and tier 2 coverage over the project area. So those are the tutorials for QGIS. There is a new tutorial that I'm developing for Google Earth, and here is that. So within Google Earth is free shareware. Just search on Google Earth Pro, download that to your computer, and then under the file menu you'll want to have downloaded this KML file to your computer. I would suggest putting it in your Honey Lake Power folder, projects folder, and so you'll download that KML file, and I'll show you what that is. But that would be then the layers that I mentioned already in QGIS. You'll have public land survey, you'll have the high hazard zone tier 1 and tier 2 layers are within this KML also. So that's how I have structured the Dropbox to help us get through this process. And actually it goes beyond that. If Honey Lake Power decides that they don't want the services of TSS and my services to do these maps, then the tools are here to enable whomever is doing it to do it themselves. All right, so that's enough on the Dropbox and how I've set up the resources there for you to do that work. So next, let me demonstrate the how one would do this in Google Earth. So this is Google Earth. I've already uploaded the KML that I just referenced a moment ago, directing you to download the Google Earth KML file that you found in Dropbox. You'll download that. You'll start Google Earth Pro. You'll go to Open, like so. You'll navigate to the KMZ file. Where is my KMZ file? There it is. So there's the KMZ. It's called HHZ apparently. Or maybe it's HLP, HHZ tool, or maybe it's I think it's a combination of all three of these now that I think about it. So when you download the KMZ file to your computer, it will be accessible like this, and you would simply go to File, select it, and open, and it will open. All right, I've already done that, so you can see the layers are here, and they're not yet displayed. The only thing that's being displayed at this moment is the cadastral or public land survey layer. So this layer comes from BLM. In this case here, it's a dynamic web connection layer as opposed to a built into the KMZ. So you can tell that because of this little link-like thing that shows the internet. So it's linked and dynamic. The KML files that I converted the GIS shape files to are here in this form. So I took the tier 1, there you can see tier 1. I've colored those into a blue with an opacity of 50%, so you can still see that. And then there is also the tier 2 yellow with an opacity of 50%, so you can see through the tier 1 and tier 2 layers, and to some extent see below that or through that. So those are the layers that you'll need to do the assessment of a project and whether or not it has overlap with tier 1, tier 2. If you've never used Google Earth, let me give you a quick introductory lesson to that. So there's basically 3 tools. This first lower tool here is for zooming. It's a drag bar, so you can drag or slide along that to zoom in and out. You can also click on the window itself to pan, click and drag. That's how you can navigate around north, south, east, west. You can zoom, as I said, by using the slider. You can use this tool here to also navigate east, west, north, south. Not quite sure why one would use that when you could simply use the hand tool, dragging north, south, east, and west that way. The other tool that is rather handy is this tool here, which changes the tilt or the orientation. So generally when you start Google Earth, there's an orientation that's tilted toward the northern horizon. I guess that's how you describe it. And so I like to get it to where it's pretty well flat. And so I'll automatically, when I start it, I will go up and use this top tool and hit the bottom arrow to cause it to be oriented what I think is flat or close to it. It also will enable you to, this tool here enables you to rotate the image. Generally, we won't want to do that because generally we want to take our map that's oriented north and south and just simply overlay it and place it on there. So that's a quick overview of how one would use the Google Earth tools. So now let's use the resources to look at a map and figure out how to place it onto Google Earth and compare it against the tier 1 and tier 2 layers. So we go up here to the add menu. We're going to say add image overlay. You could also, I was going to say you could use these shortcuts, but they're probably different between Windows and Mac. So I'll just say go to the menu option, image overlay. And when you do that, you notice that these tools show up. These are what I call handles for the image that you're about to import. This window popped up here, popped up on my other monitor that I'm not sharing with you, so I'm dragging it over here. So when I said add image overlay, you get this window called new image overlay. It enables you to browse to the map image. So I'm going to use the Eagle project mainly because it's got very well defined section corners. And so here's the, I've already converted this file from a PDF, which is typically how it comes to me or to Steve. When I get the file from Steve, it's in a WinDAT format that requires another transformation through a tool that I found on the internet called TNEF. So there's a couple of transformations that need to happen when receiving files from Steve. Let me see if I can find one of those files just so folks know. I'm not seeing it. I must not have kept the original. I have it, but it's not in this folder. So anyway, I'm going to upload the Eagle page 2 image. I have saved it in a PNG, but it would also work in a PEG file. So there we go. So there is the image. I've brought it in from Google. I'm overlaying it into Google Earth. So it comes in at a size much greater than what matches up. So here's the sections. You can see section 22, 23, 24. You can see section 13, 14, 15. And down here you can see 25, 26, 27. You can also see Eagle Lake. So this is a really good feature if you're fortunate enough to have a map that has a feature such as that, or maybe a town or something. Then that's very useful for doing the overlay. So there's Eagle Lake. Let me I'm going to turn the map image off for the moment, just so, well, it hasn't actually registered yet, so I can't turn it off. So I'm going to change the name of this. This isn't something you need to do, but I'm going to do it right now just for kicks. Eagle project. What else am I going to do with this? Well, that's all for now. Oh, yeah, that's all for now. Okay, so now you can see it shows up over here as a layer, and I'm going to turn that layer off. Okay, so here's Eagle Lake, and here's Eagle Lake in my map. So right away, I know I need to bump it down. So I'm going to edit the Eagle Lake map. So to do that, I need to reactivate the window. Edit. So to do that, you say get info. I've selected the Eagle layer. It's got to be selected to work with it. So I select it, then I say get info. Notice also there's this shortcut Command I that perhaps is a Control I in a Windows environment. In the Mac environment, it's Command I. So I'll be using the shortcut equivalents from now on rather than going up to the menu. So There, we now can edit it, and you can see that these handles have shown up again. So here's in the very middle of the image is a crosshair. On the corners, there's a 90-degree angle, an L-shaped handle. There's an L-shaped handle on the lower left, or pardon me, lower right. There's a similar handle on the upper right and a similar handle on the upper left. So let's first thing, we know that the lake is too big. So I know that I've got to change the size. So I click on the lower left handle, I drag it. I want to go in a 45-degree angle as much as possible. I don't want to mess with the, what's the word I want here? I want to make sure that I'm going at a 45-degree angle so that the X and Y remain equal. All right, so I've changed the size of it. Now I'm going to click in the center and drag it down. So I've gotten it closer to where it needs to be. I'm going to drag on the whole map by clicking outside the map area so I can move the whole map. So I clearly need to do some more clicking and dragging on this. It looks like I did distort it a bit, perhaps more than I would have liked. So I'm going to click and drag a little bit more, bringing it down like so. Our goal is to get the section corners to line up. So using, once again, section 22, 23, and 24 to line up with 22, 23, and 24 in Google Earth. So I've only begun doing this just yesterday, and so it will take practice, but with practice, I'm sure that we can get comfortable with it, and it would be a reasonable way to do a quick check of whether or not there is overlap between tier 1 and tier 2. So the first thing that I determined I wanted to do was mark the corners of section 20, the sections that I'm going to be using, make them more easily seen so that when I overlay the corners of the map, it's easier to do, just sort of some guides. And I contemplating creating similar guides on this map, which if I were going to be doing this much, I probably would do. So I put a big black dot or something, a crosshair or a circle on these so that I can see them more readily. And maybe that wouldn't be necessary with practice. All right, so I'm going to identify where are the section corners for 22, 23, and 24. So just to confirm with folks, I'm going to turn off the public land survey layer. First, in order to do changes to the Google Earth environment, I have to say okay. I have to take the map such that it's no longer part of the edit process. Because right now it's expecting work associated with this map, and I'm going to do something that's beyond the map. All right, so there now. What I'm going to do is turn off the sections because I want to just illustrate to you. So here's section 22, here's section 23, and here's section 24. So it might be useful to notice that the edge of the project area is the northern corner of section 22. This little point here is the corner of section 23 and 24, the northern boundary. The southern boundary of 24 and 25 is right there. So those are easily distinguishable points on our overlay map. So let's find those points and mark those points within Google Earth. So I'm going to turn on I'm going to activate Google Earth again so that we can see those section corners. And at the moment, the way Google Earth is working here at this, it changes based on your level of your zoom level. So notice it goes, there it is. So there is the corner of the northern corner of 22, northern corner of 23. So I'm going to mark those. For me, they become more easily distinguishable when they are just that section, the 640 acres section. When you zoom out, it's showing all the quarter sections and it becomes more cluttered. So what I've done, just the one time I've done this, is I added a place mark. I added place marks at all those corners so that I can find them readily. So I went up to up here, there is this add a little yellow push pin. You could also go up here and say add place mark, or you could do the keyboard equivalent. So add place mark. So that place mark shows up here as a yellow square with a push pin in the middle. At the same time that appeared, this window appears. So I'm going to move it up to the northern intersection of 24 and 18. Oh, pardon me, what is that? Yeah, 18. No, 19. So 24 and 19. There that is. So I'm going to label that north 24, 19 so I can keep track of it. I'm going to change the size of it. It comes in as a scale of 0.3. I'll change it a little bit. All right. So that's now there. You can see it's here. You can actually zoom in and see it. It probably needs a little bit of adjustment so that it's right where we put it. Yeah, see it's I'm going to enlarge it a little bit because actually it was kind of difficult to see there. I'm going to make it a 0.5 there. All right, then I'm going to add similarly for the northern corner of 23 and 24. Name it 23, 24, and then I'm going to add another one for 22, 23. And then I'm going to add one for the southern corner so that we get a box with both the east-west and some level of north-south so that we make sure that it's proportionate in both the X and Y directions. So I'm going to add one more. And this may be overkill, and perhaps with more practice we can get better at this. But for now, while learning this, I want to make this as easy as possible for myself. So this is the southern corner between 22, 23. All right, so now we've got 3 4 reference points. So let's now bring our map back in. So we're going to make it active. So that's the eagle layer. I selected it, and then I'm doing a command I. So that makes it editable. This little window popped up. And also what popped up is the handles on the map. So I'm going to click here in the middle and bring it up into the vicinity that we want it to be. I'm going to change its opaqueness so you can see that. That's the slider right here. Make it a little bit easier to see through it so I can see my reference points. But at the same time, you also want to be able to see the section lines. So you've got to find that sweet spot for seeing the section lines while also seeing the reference points that we set up for Google Earth, the place marks. Right now I'm going to drag the whole screen down a little further. So here's the 3 northern points, and there's that southern point. So we can see that we need to change the scale quite a bit on the overlay. So I'm going to drag it way down. And also it helps to have the lake there. So now I'm dragging the whole image, using the lake as a little bit of a reference. There's section 24, there's section 23, so we still got to go quite a ways. I'm going to drag over here because what I've done is I've overlaid the corner of 23 and 19 on the map with my place mark. Now I'm going to drag the corner of the map, once again going at 45 degrees because you want to maintain the X and Y proportions. There. So that is fairly close. Now I'm looking at the lake there and seeing that it's not close at all. So that suggests to me that I must have tweaked it too much in the north-south direction. Yeah, you also have, if you hadn't noticed, you also have this road to guide us in terms of whether we're close. And you can see here's that road on the paper map. Here's that road in Google Earth. So I'm not doing as well as I would like here with making this work. It's fairly close. So I'm going to say okay. I'm not going to edit the image anymore. Actually, what I will do is turn on. Let's just see how much. I'm going to pull the whole area, the map area down, the map window down by just dragging. And then let's turn on the high hazard zone 2. Well, we can right away see what we got, even though we're not as close as we could be. we definitely can overlap with tier 2, 100%. You turn off tier 2 and turn on tier 1, and while our alignment is not perfect, it suggests that there is some, here I'm going to change the map image a little bit so that it's a little bit more opaque. There we go. And so you can see that there is apparently some tier 1 in here as well. You can see here this road has tier 1 along it, and the road that is here in Google Earth is here on the map image. And so you can see that's tier 1 through there, some more tier 1 through here. So there's enough to know that there is 100% tier 2. There's enough to know that there's some percentage, not a lot, but probably less than 25, maybe, but more than 10% tier 1. And that's adequate for our initial assessment, I do believe. Then subject to additional assessment within QGIS. And that's the work that I plan to do after I return. So